day 2 of the book club article, and today is November 6th. We're on pages 14 and 15 again. Our story this month is called The Improbable Tales of Baskerville Hall.
没错，我们要继续介绍昨天所介绍的这个巴斯克维尔 Book One 学院的待解之谜。我们昨天简单的讲了一下，我们这个书的作者这个书的这个主角呢，刚好他的名字也是那个福尔摩斯的作者Arthur Conan Doyle。那我们昨天简单的介绍了一下这个书中的内容。他呢本身出身贫穷，然后后来在学校里面交了2个好朋友，也树立了一些敌人。学校发生一些奇妙的事情，带他踏上了一个危险的旅程。那我们今天要简单介绍一下 Sherlock Holmes 相关的。然后昨天老师呢也还讲到说，你知不知道这个 Sherlock Holmes 他应该说那个 Arthur Conan Doyle， 他很想要直接刺死他的这个主角福尔摩斯，然后他后来不得已又得要花很多时间去写，是因为他需要钱。
He was really bad with money, so they were like, I hate Sherlock Holmes.But I really like money. And he loved to spend money. So he had to keep writing these stories. And here's my favorite part of Sherlock Holmes. So he wanted to stop writing Sherlock Holmes and he kills Sherlock Holmes. But before that, he tries to make Sherlock Holmes super unlikable. No one wants to read this guy because he's so bad. But the fans are like, oh, 你看他有聪明，而且很坏，但是他很帮助很多人 but 他很坏 and they loved it even more.
原来是这样的。所以老师就讲到说，当初他很希望说，我不想再写福尔摩斯的故事了。好，我决定到后面就是这样写的，就是个性脾气越来越古怪，越来越坏，越来越讨人厌。但是想不到读者因为你越坏我越爱，然后大家越来越喜欢看。
Everything he did, the fans loved it more.
Wow.
I love that. Okay, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we got paragraph 1.
The Improbable Tales of Baskerville Hall. From the title, The Improbable Tales of Baskerville Hall, fans of Sherlock Holmes can immediately tell that the story is connected to the famous detective.Baskerville appears in the title of one of Arthur Conan Doyle's most famous stories, The Hound of the Baskervilles. Although it was his third novel featuring Sherlock Holmes, The Hound of the Baskervilles was not published as a full book at first. It was serialized in a magazine. The story tells of a family curse,and a large ghostly dog. Holmes must rely on logic to discover the truth. The Sherlock Holmes stories originally began as a way for Conan Doyle to earn extra income. Since he had trained to become a doctor, it was actually one of his medical school teachers that inspired the character of Sherlock Holmes.Although readers loved these detective stories, Conan Doyle once said he considered killing Holmes off because he thought the character prevented him from working on more important literary work. Even though his mother strongly disagreed, Conan Doyle still had Sherlock Holmes and his enemy, Professor Moriarty, die together in The Adventure of the Final Problem. Many readers were upset by the ending and wrote letters to complain. Due to the public pressure, Conan Doyle had no choice but to bring Holmes back to life in The Adventure of the Empty
House.Okay, friends, welcome back. Let's look at pages 14 and 15. Take out your pencils, take out your blue pen, and write in your magazines. It's a great way to learn even better. From the title, The Improbable Tales of Baskerville Hall, fans of Sherlock Holmes can immediately tell that the story is connected to the famous detective.
没错，我们再看第一段的第一句话就告诉你说 From the title, The Improbable Tales of Baskerville Hall, 光是看到这个书名的 title, 你看到 Baskerville, 然后你就想到，哎，等等，我看过这个巴斯克维尔的猎犬，这会不会是跟他有点关系的呀？对不对？好，他就说了，这个 fans of Sherlock Holmes， 只要是这个福尔摩斯的粉丝们，一定可以马上 can immediately tell that the story is connected to 是与什么有关的？与什么有关呢 ？The famous detective 一定跟夏洛克·福尔摩斯有关。
Now, Anthony already translated is connected to something, a noun. 这个to之后一定 you need a noun or a gerund 都名字。But let's also look at C-O-N. Underline C-O-N. And remember, when you see C-O-N at the front of a word, it means 连起来. It means together. So C-O-N, C-O-M, and C-O-L all means together or connected to.
没错，这三个字跟 C-O-N、C-O-M、C-O-L 都是 together 的意思。
Baskerville appears in the title of one of Arthur Conan Doyle's most famous stories, The Hound of Baskervilles.
没错，所以这边你看到 Baskervilles 这个名字呢 appears in the title of one of Arthur Conan Doyle's most famous stories, The Hound of the Baskervilles. 它就出现在这个柯南道尔最著名的这个故事之一哦，就是这个巴斯克维尔的猎犬，这是他第3本的那种长篇的作品。
You're right, and I also forgot the because that's a little bit irregular today in Shindai to England. So The Hound of the Baskervilles is the correct title. I said it wrong because it's a little bit older English. Good job, he caught it. A hound is just a kind of a dog. Write that down. Hound is just dog. That's what that means here. And that's the book you said that you read in college, right?
Right.
This is probably Arthur Conan Doyle's most famous Sherlock Holmes novel. But it's not his only one. In fact, there are a total of 60 Holmes stories. There are just 4 novels and 56 short stories.
Yeah， 老师刚才提到说，他全部呢，你看到这个 Arthur Conan Doyle， 他的作品一共有60本，然后其中4本呢是 novels， 是那种小说比较长篇的，剩下的56呢，它是那种短篇小说。那我的话，我大概去查了一下，像我们今天这个提到的 Baskerville， 这个巴斯克维尔的猎犬，它是在1902年，它这个写出来的。那在那之前，他其实就很想要刺死这个Sherlock Holmes， 所以呢，到后没错嘛 ，kill him off， 就直接把他刺死。所以他在之前的时候，其实他之前的作品叫做《最后一案》，这个叫做 The Final Problem， 好，是在1893年的时候他写了，在那里面他就刺死了这个福尔摩斯。到后来大家觉得不行啊，怎么可以这样刺死他？于是呢，他后来写了这本书的时候呢，他就想说 ，OK， 我把时间线把它定在他死亡之前，所以他是后写的东西，但是他想的事件是在他被刺死1893年之前的事件。
Like a shocking ending can freak out fans, right?
Right.
Like if you kill off a very famous character, how can you do that? It really makes you mad. Have you ever felt that about a character you love, that you felt they died unfairly or the ending wasn't right?
有，我在看《海贼王》的时候，艾斯死掉的时候，我吓坏了。
Who is this?
The One Piece.
Okay, I never saw that. Okay.
所以我那时候我想他怎么可以死掉？怎么可以领便当？天哪！不行。
Yes, I know. For me, that was Game of Thrones. Like the whole ending, I was just like, no.
Yeah, that's right. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, let's take a quick break. I want you guys that's our question here.
Right.
What character's death or they were ended unfairly, which one made you unhappy and angry and upset?
Yeah， 所以说你看过的这个作品里面，有没有看过任何一个作品，你喜欢角色莫名其妙被作者刺死了，你很生气，你很难过，赶快在下面告诉我们，
Tell us, yes,
跟我们说。
All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we got paragraph 2. Okay, friends, welcome back to Enjoy English School. We're on pages 14 and 15. Don't forget to tell us which character's death made you upset. And just very quickly to talk about our last paragraph, there were 56 Sherlock Holmes short stories, but you couldn't go to the store and buy them usually. You had to go buy a magazine. You see, in the past, usually when you wanted to read this long story, you didn't go to the bookstore. You would buy these magazines and they were very cheap and you would read them every single month. And the magazine producer would make a lot of money and then give it to the author. It's different than today. Like you just go to the bookstore and buy a book, or you download the book on your phone. But back then, it was all about magazines.
没错，所以以前呢，不像我们现在啊，买书好方便，网络上买一下就好了。以前的话，长篇东西是慢慢。我记得以前如果你看金庸啊，或是古龙的这个楚留香啊那些这种东西的话，好，也许你爸爸妈妈会知道啊，就是他们的话就是定期的连载，可能在这个报纸上连载，或是可能在杂志里面连载，就很像是我们的少年快报，有没有？它里面有很多每一集的这个不同的漫画。大概像那种感觉，就是说，哦，它是定期连载，然后最后才集结成书的。
That's right, and that's what we're going to talk about in this paragraph. It happened for many authors. Many of those really famous stories that you will read in English first appeared in some magazine in like the 1890s. Although it was his third novel featuring Sherlock Holmes, The Hound of the Baskervilles was not published as a full book at first. It was serialized in a magazine. That just means you read it in a magazine, each piece, every month for a long time.
没错。所以这边的话，这一句话我们看看啊。Although it was his third novel featuring Sherlock Holmes， 虽然呢我们讲到说这个巴斯克维尔的猎犬是他第3部的作品，再去讲福尔摩斯的故事。The Hound of the Baskervilles， 好，这个作品呢 was not published。As a full book at first， 一开始不是那种集结成书就直接出书的，好 ，it was serialized in a magazine 啊 ，serial 的话就是一集一集的，比方说你可能听到像什么 TV series，
it's just the same word as series.
Yeah， 就是 episode 一集 episode 那种感觉，就是在这个杂志里面，你会一集的慢慢看到，最后差不多。够多了，然后集结成册。
So you already understand this. If you read any web comics, and there's like a story for like 4 days, 5 days, a month, that's serialized. They don't give you the whole story right now. Every day they give you a couple pieces. And then in a week, you have a couple pieces. And then at the end, usually the artist will publish all of them together. And then you could read all of that, or you could slowly read it every day. And the good part about reading it slowly every day is you react. You find into this piece and you get more and more excited and you talk with fans. What will be the ending? How will this end? What will happen next? And it creates a very strong connection and feeling with the other readers.
啊，没有错。所以说，今天如果是你慢慢出这些内容的话，一个好处，老师刚刚讲到说，大家就会猜测说，哎，这个剧情可能会这样走啊，然后可能网络上就有人讨论，然后告诉说，我觉得这个后面应该会这样发展，我觉得那个人是奸细，我怎么可能不可能？然后大概慢慢谈久了之后，就会有一种氛围，让你觉得说，哦，原来你也看这个 Game of Thrones， 然后我也看 Game of Thrones， 我们就会讨论剧情。
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. The story tells of a family curse and a large ghostly dog. Holmes must rely on logic to discover the truth.
好，所以他现在告诉你说呢 ，The story tells of a family curse。好，这个故事呢是在讲到一个这种家族的诅咒 ，and a large ghostly dog， 还有一只巨大的幽灵犬。好，所以这个狗呢看起来好像很恐怖，然后呢很巨大的脚印等等。好，就是他这个地方他说 ，Holmes must rely on logic 就是逻辑。好，我们的主角这个 Sherlock Holmes 必须依靠他的逻辑。Rely on 就是依靠的意思 ，to discover the truth 来发现真相。
All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we got paragraph 3. Okay, friends, welcome back to Enjoy English School, and we're on pages 14 and 15. Let's look at paragraph 3. The Sherlock Holmes stories originally began as a way for Conan Doyle to earn extra income. So he started to write stories to make more money. This is like the side hustle.
Side hustle 就是那种副业、兼职的那种感觉。如果没记错，那时候我在看这个 Baskerville 这个作品的时候，他前面有介绍到，因为他是1885年的时候呢，26岁的时候开始就是当医生嘛。后来他觉得说，我需要更多钱，于是在28岁的时候，他出了第一本作品。在这个地方，你看到他说 The Sherlock Holmes Stories， 福尔摩斯这个系列故事呢。Originally began as a way for Conan Doyle， 好，就是我们这个作者，好 to earn extra income。Income 的意思就是收入，他希望能够有更多的收入。老师刚刚提到这个 side hustle 的拼法是 Hustle，hustle，side 的话就是 SIDE，side hustle 就是我们的副业。
That's right. So maybe you know someone that has a job.But they maybe on the weekends will also drive food for Uber Eats or Food Panda. That's your side hustle. You do this on the side to make a little more money. Back in the 1860s, you don't have Uber Eats, so you write detective novels, I guess.
Yeah.
Since he had trained to become a doctor, he went to school to become a doctor. It was actually one of his medical school teachers that inspired the character of Sherlock Holmes. So he had this professor that could just look at a person and say, okay, you do this job and you do this work, and so you probably have this problem. For example, if you work with a lot of coal, this was something that people did in the back. Your fingers would be dirty, your clothes would be dirty, and every day you would breathe coal, so probably you have a lung problem.
没有错，所以老师呢就提到说了，如果说今天那种推理的过程，可能要说，如果你今天你是那种去挖矿的矿工，好，你可能常常碰到很多煤矿啊等等的，你手呢可能黑黑的，衣服可能就会有黑黑的地方，因为你吸入了大量的煤，可能你会有肺的问题等等。那类似像这样子的那种推理过程，你看这边这句话就说了 ，Since he had trained to become a doctor， 因为他慢慢的接受这个医学训练，要变成医生嘛。It was actually one of his medical school teachers。原来是在医学院里面，其中有一个老师呢，他有这样的人格特质，然后 that inspired the character of Sherlock Holmes。好，他就是给他一个灵感，说我要写一个福尔摩斯这样的角色，能够见微知著，然后一看到这个小小的细节，就可以推出说大概是怎么回事。
Although readers loved these detective stories, Conan Doyle once said he considered killing Holmes off because he thought the character prevented him from working on more important literary work.
好，我们来看这一句，这句好长，对不对？我们慢慢看。Although readers love these detective stories， 虽然这些读者非常喜欢这个侦探故事，可是呢，我们这个作者 Conan Doyle 怎么样 ？Once said he considered killing Holmes off， 就是决定要刺死这个我们的主角。Why? Because he thought the character prevented him from working on more important literary work。也就是说，今天我想要写一些更重要的一些文学作品，不然老是写这些侦探故事，没有什么那种文学上的重要地位。所以他想说，干脆想办法刺死他好了。所以在这个地方呢，他说 ，because he thought the character 这个主角呢，也是福尔摩斯 prevented him 让他没有办法 from working on something more important 那种感觉。所以在这里的话，你要注意到 prevent somebody from doing something 就是让他不能做什么事情，还有 killing Holmes off 就是让这个角色死掉的意思。
So this is like a funny movie where the guy's like, okay, how do I kill off Sherlock Holmes? And everything he does makes Holmes more popular, which is so funny to me. So he made Holmes like do drugs. He made Holmes like a bad person with a bad attitude, and he was lazy, and Dr. Watson did everything else. People loved it every bit.
所以说很奇妙，就是老师就讲到说，开到后面的时候，他希望说这个角色不要那么 likable， 然后他变成说好让人家讨厌一点点，然后他开始吸鸦片，然后可能他就是很懒惰，然后清洁方面呢，个人清洁很糟糕，什么事都叫 Dr. Watson 去做，但是大家就觉得我好爱这个角色，赞哪。
He said, okay, all right. I'm gonna make Sherlock Holmes stories super expensive, so nobody can buy them and nobody can read them, and I don't have to read them. But people loved it anyways, and so by accident, he became like the richest author in England.
哇，所以他就最后就想这个方法说，好啊，那我这样让大家都看不起，我要把这个东西设的超级贵。如果说今天我一篇作品，我可能要大概半栋房子的价钱，然后反正是超级贵。这样大家就不会看了，对不对？买不起嘛，读不起嘛，就后来发现到说，大家还是很爱，所以于是呢，他就突然间变成了全英国最有钱的人。
It's like a funny movie.
Wow.
Like everything he did was,
Wow.
it didn't work. Okay, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we got our paragraph 4. Hey everyone, welcome back to Enjoy English School. Let's begin our final paragraph about the improbable tales of Baskerville Hall. Even though his mother strongly disagreed, Conan Doyle still had Sherlock Holmes and his enemy, Professor Moriarty, die together in the adventure of the final problem.
好，所以你看，他有想过说，要不要刺死这个Sherlock Holmes？然后他想过，就有一次在信里面写，他说，跟妈妈讲说，我决定要刺死他。
He wasn't typing anybody.
哦
handwriting.
对，他就跟妈妈讲说，我决定要这样刺死他。妈妈说千万不可以。我在猜他妈妈应该也很喜欢这个福尔摩斯系列的作品哦。所以在你看这句话的这个开头，他讲说 ，Even though 尽管 his mother strongly disagreed， 虽然说尽管妈妈持反对意见，你不可以刺死福尔摩斯啊。但我们的这个作者 Conan Doyle still had Sherlock Holmes and his enemy, Professor Moriarty, die together in the adventure of the final problem. 最后呢，他就在这个最后一案里面，1893年出的这个最后一案短篇故事里头，决定跟这个 Moriarty 一起掉到这个瀑布里面，让他刺死他这样子。
Doesn't like people falling off a waterfall today feel so cliche? Like to you and me, it's like, oh yeah, of course, they fall off the waterfall together.
Of course.
But back then, that was like a new thing, and people were like, they fell off the waterfall.
Wow.
Many readers were upset by the ending and wrote letters to complain. They wrote a lot of letters, and then they canceled their magazine subscriptions. 20,000 people canceled their magazine subscription. This is back when you didn't have a cell phone or a computer or TV. Reading magazines and newspapers every day is how a lot of people spent their time. This was a lot of money.
没错，所以在那个时候，大概19年、1890几年的时候，那段时间的话，其实是没有网络，然后呢，没有电视，然后
No cell phones.
也没有手机，都没有，所以其实读书啦，或是读杂志，是他们很大的消遣。于是，所以在这个地方，他刺死了这个福尔摩斯之后，很多的杂志读者2万人，2万人的人说气到说好，我退订，我不要看杂志，气死了，用这种方式来抗议，对不对啊？很生气，那杂志也亏了很多钱。
Yes, and then some people said, this is not proven, but they would wear like black armbands because they were sad about Sherlock Holmes. And then at Reichenbach Falls, where Sherlock Holmes and the professor died together, they put a plaque there. They were so sad. I mean,
没错，就大家就开始为这个福尔摩斯哀悼，好像他是真人一样，很夸张。
Yes, very funny. Everybody were very upset. They would write letters to Arthur Conan Doyle, but they wouldn't use his name. They would call him the murderer.
我还看过那个 You Brute.
Yeah, you brute.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Many readers were upset by the ending and wrote letters to complain. Due to the public pressure, Conan Doyle had no choice but to bring Holmes back to life in the adventure of the empty house.
好，所以他告诉你说，因为压不住呢 ，due to the public pressure， 压不住舆论的压力 ，pressure 就是压力的意思 ，public pressure 就是舆论的那种压力。Conan Doyle had no choice but to do something， 就是他别无选择，只好做后面这件事。什么事情呢 ？To bring Holmes back to life， 让他起死回生。其实他掉到这个瀑布里面，他没死，他只是假死。OK， 好 ，In the Adventure of the Empty House， 意思就是在这个空屋这部作品里面，它也是一个短篇作品。然后在这个空屋的作品里面，让他突然又回来了，他其实没有死掉，让大家觉得好在福尔摩斯没死。
That's right, but also most importantly, his magazine, was it The Strand or whatever? They gave him a ton of money. Like, you write these stories, 10 pages. They were 10-page stories. They would give him like $100,000 per
Wow.
in today's money, like per 10 pages. That's crazy.
天哪，好多钱呐！
They gave him tons of money. So of course he's like, okay, I guess I can. I love the story of Arthur Conan Doyle. It is so funny that this guy hated Sherlock and could not get rid of him, but made him super rich. What's the problem with that? Make people happy. Okay. For Enjoy English School, I'm Chris Gorski.
I'm Anthony.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.